I bought my first Nikon lens new in 1967, a 35mm 2.8 manual lens. It worked great in my Nikon F for many years until the metering system died, and that's when I needed to look around for another Nikon camera. The simple reality is, us addicted photographers cannot ignore the fact that most new camera equipment costs way more than what we can afford. What to do? Well, there is one solution: the used market. I think there are still a lot of great lenses out there that are out of production but still great glass, and that's where you look. That's right, the oldies but goodies. So here's a 1959 lens still working great 65 years later on a D810, Nikon's highest resolution camera of 2014. And that's right, these sweethearts were all bought used on eBay. This old manual focus 400mm 5.6 from the 70s, I think, may not be great for action shots, but if your subject will hold still for you even for a second, this lens will deliver. Those contacts are what tells the D810 what lens it is shooting with. Old non-CPU lenses don't have them and must be programmed in the camera's settings menu. If you do that, each photograph's lens settings will be saved as a file with the picture. That old manual focus 400mm 5.6 served me well as my very first wildlife lens, and it's very light. True, it's limited, but digital cameras will record old lens information. Brand new, you could buy a Volkswagen for what this lens costs, but it was beat, it was ugly, and it was busted, and I got it for a bargain price on eBay. A 600mm f4 tack sharp, but it weighed 14 pounds. I think it was a stadium lens for the Boston Globe. I finally had to get rid of it because I couldn't carry it around anymore. Just too heavy. This is an 8mm Rokinon fisheye, which I bought brand new mainly because Nikon fisheyes were just out of my price range, but it was tack sharp and manual focus, which is no problem with a fisheye. I do have a couple autofocus lenses, and this one, like many of the later models, have the designation AIS. AIS lenses simply record more digital data with each exposure. When the smallest aperture listed on the barrel is in orange, that means it is an AIS lens. You know that those earliest lenses uh, that Nikon had used the metering system with the prong and had to be converted before they could be used on the newer Nikon cameras. So I had it adjusted. Yes, 60 years later, that 35mm is still a great prime lens for me. My other prime is this 28mm 3.5, which I bought used on eBay. Oh yeah, fisheyes are a lot fun to use. When I use it on my Nikon D810, I simply change the image area from FX to DX, and that eliminates the problem in the viewfinder. Yeah, that old 600mm 14 pounder was a great salvage operation for me, but I had to save my back. I bought a Sigma 150 to 600mm, brand new in the box. Well, I really loved that old Nikon 600, a 14 pounder, but it was such a beast. It was top heavy. You couldn't use it on a tripod if you didn't have a Webley mount. And on my many road trips out into the bush, I really needed to travel light. Hey, you know what it's all about. If you're like me, it's all about the hunt. Finding a great image and capturing it with some great equipment. Yeah, well, it's true. You can't dispute the high quality of the newest Nikon equipment, but you can dispute the price. And of course, that's where the used equipment market, loaded with a glut of discarded equipment, comes to the rescue. This very sharp micro Nikkor 105 and this FM2 were both bought used. And the same goes for the N90 and my D810. When did I switch from film cameras to digital cameras? I don't know. I can't remember. But my first one was a Nikon D100. I don't really need the latest and the greatest digital 45 gazillion megapixel digital cameras. All my old school manual lenses work better than ever with the digital cameras that I do have. Well, out here in New Mexico, there are certainly many great opportunities for landscape photography, but sometimes you just can't get out there. So what I do is I just look for something in the foreground that will work very well, and then of course
I'll make sure there's plenty of blue sky up behind it.
And lately I've been wanting to shoot film again because I love that Tri-X look. So I got out my old FM2 and my N90 and I bought some rolls of Tri-X. Well, a landscape needs a dark sky for drama, and you get that by adding a red filter to the front of your lens. You're looking through the viewfinder of your camera with the red filter on it and assuming you can see what you're doing. When your Tri-X gets processed and then scanned, this is what you'll get. And I need to mention that pulling out that old FM2, that film camera, it's amazing how tiny it is compared to my digital cameras. Them old Nikon lenses and digital cameras may be discontinued, but in my opinion, the glass is still superb, and I seriously doubt that upgrading to the new cameras that are out there are a cost-effective substitute for manual cameras and the old standby of F8 and be there. Yeah, well, of course, autofocus can't be beat for subjects that won't hold still for you. Of the 9 lenses that I own, 3 were bought brand new: the 35mm, the 8mm fish, and the 150-600 Sigma, which I admit is a great lightweight autofocus wildlife solution. Alright, here's my favorite Nikon story. I bought this lens on eBay because it was busted and I thought I could fix it, but I couldn't. So I sent it to Nikon to be repaired. I sent them the money. They couldn't fix it, and finally I said, give me my lens back, and they sent me a brand new one in the box, no charge. Well, it just confirms that sometimes on eBay you can get very lucky.